Today we are making cinnamon vegan cookies. Well, we're going to start off with my previous attempts at making cinnamon vegan cookies. My recipe is essentially just the same recipe that you find on the back of a Nestle chocolate chip bag, with the only change being that I don't add eggs and I trade out the cup of butter for a 3/4 cup of olive oil. This is my first attempt. Pretty much the recipe is exactly the same except for those two trade outs that I mentioned. It's very flat. It's very hard. But actually it's not that bad. It's kind of like a very thick, crunchy graham cracker. The flavor is stronger than a graham cracker, but it does have a cracker kind of consistency when you bite into it. This one, I was like, I know how to make bread, so I'm going to use yeast instead of baking soda, which is what I use for this one. So this one has yeast in it, and everything else is the same between these two, except this one has a package of yeast in it instead of the teaspoon of baking soda like this one has. And one other big difference was when I put it in the oven, I wanted the top to be crispy like the bread that I had made. And so I kept poking at the top. I would open it up every 5 minutes. I'd poke at the top. And usually I only cook the cookies for like 8 to 10 minutes, so not really that long. This one was in the oven for, the first batch was 20 minutes, second batch was 15. Because I kept on waiting for the hard top to happen, and it never happened. It didn't actually happen until after it had cooled. Bottom ended up fairly burnt, and it is a rock. So I'm going to break these cookies open and show you what they look like on the inside. So they both ended up cutting pretty easy, which I was kind of surprised at. I expected this one to kind of shatter, and I expected this one to not cut at all, honestly. On the inside, this one looks pretty like a really thick bread kind of thing. So it's really dense, but it's also really dry, which contributes to it being kind of like a cracker. This one, on the other hand, I'm not even sure how to describe it. It's kind of like, it's underbaked, I think, if I remember my Great British Baking Show. But it was in the oven forever, and I'm not sure why. Well, I mean, I can guess. Eggs adds a fluffiness to the dough, which allows it to rise a little bit better. And so this one had a bunch of stuff that made the dough heavier, like oil and sugar and stuff, but it didn't have eggs. And so since this one used baking soda, it was probably a little bit more forgiving to the lack of eggs. But this one, since it had yeast, it had no forgiveness. And I actually have a whole bunch of these cookies left, and they're pretty inedible, which is a real shame because they actually smell amazing. These don't really smell like anything at all, but they're more edible. You can actually eat them. They don't like break your face open. And today I'm going to be trying a different kind of recipe that is still an experiment and is not from the internet, like my boyfriend keeps on telling me I should do, like an actual recipe. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going off of this recipe. Pretty much same thing, olive oil instead of butter, no eggs. I'm going to throw in some baking powder as well as the baking soda. So baking powder will add another leavening agent into it, which in my experience so far, it's made my normal cookies with the eggs and the butter to be like fatter, like that. So usually they're like this, but then they pop them up like that. Which I had examples. I don't, because I ate them all because they're really good. Planning on making more later. But I'm going to make vegan cookies with that. And I'm also going to reduce the amount of sugar, which should make the dough a little bit less heavy and able to rise a little bit more, even if there's no egg in it. Which I don't know if that's true, but we're going to try it. So here I've made my dough. One thing to note about vegan cookies that I've seen so far is that the dough is very crumbly. Egg acts as a binding agent between the ingredients, and so doughs with egg in it are going to have a more kind of consistent sort of texture to them. But since I do not have egg it is all crumbly, but it does smush. Here, let me get this spoon out. It does smush together. So it can stay together to form into a ball. I did add about 4 to 5 tablespoons of water to the mixture as well, because egg also adds in a lot of water, not moisture, but water, which will help the gluten develop in the flour. And since I did not have eggs, I added in a little bit of just cold water. Some people put in non-dairy milk, like almond milk and stuff, and I do have almond milk, but I didn't feel like adding too much flavor to this because there's cinnamon and there's vanilla extract in it. I know other people also use xanthan gum, I think it's called, but I didn't want to use anything too outrageous. The most outrageous ingredient in here is the vanilla extract, and everything else is just sugar and flour and olive oil. Pretty much stuff that's pretty easy to find, and that's kind of my intent, is to not use some really out there ingredient, which I'm pretty sure xanthan gum is probably pretty easy to find. I'm just incredibly lazy and I don't want to look for it. And as you can see over here, I've been chowing down on this one because I have not had breakfast yet. And this one is probably going to go in the trash, and also the rest of these. So I'm pretty much only kept these around because I wanted to make a comparison between this one and these. So my oven is ready. I'm going to go ahead and put these on the baking sheet. I'll show you what they look like on the baking sheet real quick, and then I'll pop them in the oven. And here they look on the cookie sheet. I use a ice cream scoop to scoop them out because I don't have a cookie scoop, and I like them being kind of the same size. And they do keep, they look crumbly, but they do keep their shape if I poke them. They don't like immediately collapse or anything like that. So, alright. Alright, 2 more things before I go ahead and eat breakfast. One being that cookie dough with vegan cookies does not taste like cookie dough. It's not, like, awful, but it definitely doesn't have the same level of, like, I could sit there and eat the whole thing. But I also put about a half a cup less sugar, so that probably doesn't help. And secondly, these cookies smell amazing when they're being baked. Also, there's a whole bunch of really interesting shapes coming out of here. I have no idea why. But we shall see what they look like after they are done. Oh my god, guys. Ah! Those look amazing! Let's take a look from the side. Oh, wow, they're so thick. Oh my gosh. And I don't know what happened with this guy. He just decided to go for a joyride, I guess. I'm gonna poke these for a second. Ooh, oh. Oh my gosh, those are collapsing very easily. Like, these guys have no structure at all. That is hilarious. Oh my gosh. Well, I'll let those guys cool and see. Let's not poke them anymore. That doesn't actually look cooked all the way through. That's not good. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and... No, that's not cooked. Well, I don't know. Flat on the inside, that's for sure. I think the next batch, I'm going to sit them in for 12 minutes instead of just 10. Alright, so here's the second batch. Well, half batch, because it turns out when you don't add a bunch of sugar, you don't end up with as much butter, but whatever. Okay, so let's see. These are in, ooh. Oh, that one's collapsing still. Not as much, though. These are in for 12 minutes instead of 10 minutes. They are holding their own a little bit better. So they're still very crumbly. Like, if I cut through this, the whole thing's going to fall apart. So, but these look a lot better. Well, now I flattened them all out, but... Let's take a look at these, which I've been sitting on a drying rack for a little bit. Oh, there you go. There you go. Need some time to chill. All right, so let's, oops. Oh, that just fell straight apart. No. No, they're quite bland. Let's see. Well, these don't really look cooked all the way through. Huh. Okay. More sugar. They're pretty bland, actually. I'm kind of surprised. Oh well. I wonder how these would taste since they were in a little bit longer. I'm guessing it's probably not going to be that different. Yeah, these haven't cooled. These taste a little bit better. So I guess cooking them just a hair longer has helped the taste a little bit. They definitely don't have enough sugar in them. Unless they don't taste like they do. That's interesting. All right. Well, I mean, they're not awful. Obviously, they're not as awful as this thing. This rock. Hey, I broke it. Cool. But yeah, they're not great. I wonder, so right now it's just cinnamon and a touch of vanilla. So I wonder if adding a little bit more other flavor as well will help them to kind of buoy up the fact that they have like no eggs or butter in them. So, but yeah, fun experiment.